All right. Hello, everybody. I hope you all are doing well. This is, of course, DFS Army's NBA Tournament Strategy Show, where we look at last night's slate, the craziness that was, and then we'll game plan for today and talk through some potential sneaky spots and make sure that we're all good to go. Good to see everyone. Hope y'all are doing well. Let's cut right to it. TK. Last night was tough, right? Like last night was a little
Yeah,
bit of a toughie.
definitely tough.
There was a lot of calls we got right, but then there were some key pieces that we needed and some guys who just didn't come through for us. So there will definitely be worse nights this season, but wasn't my favorite second game of the slate. What we're looking at right here is the $100,000 winning lineup. At point guard, you see Tyus Jones. If you watched the pre-lock show last night, which is for VIP members only, you would see my guy B-Dubs talking all about Tyus. For me, I like Tyus. I like Sohan a good bit too. And so for me, I was comfortable being around field weight on both. I needed to be overweight on Jones.
Yeah,
um,
he had a huge game.
yeah, he had a massive game, which I think makes sense. Like we've seen him have these good games before when John Morant was out on the
Yeah,
Grizzlies. So I don't think it was a complete surprise. We saw that he was pretty chalky as well, but he was definitely a guy you needed. Benedict Mathurin, I wasn't on him at all. Like he just
yeah,
wasn't on my radar. We
me
liked a
neither.
lot of the Pacers guys, but Mathurin wasn't there for it. Desmond Bain was a core play for us last night, so glad he made
Yep.
it in there. Obi Toppin was a lock for us last night on the pre-lock show, so that went pretty well. Clint Capella squeezed his way in there at 1.3% ownership. We always like playing bigs against the Hornets. We talked about
Yeah,
it on this show.
yeah.
Clint Capella being a
Mm-hmm.
solid play. He even went to the locker room for a little bit last night and somehow still made the Nuts lineup. I think it just goes to show that matchups over everything, even on a
Yep.
large slate. Um,
Agree.
Mark Williams also did well. I'm surprised he didn't make the Nuts line. You know,
Yeah, he was somebody I was in on. He had what 15 points, 15 rebounds, a couple of blocks and steals. Yeah, I'm
yeah,
surprised he was in the winning lineup.
yeah, me too. Luka Doncic, we were on. That wasn't really a shocker of a play, but I do wish I was a little bit higher on him. Porzingis, unicorn. We talked about him on
Yeah,
this show.
yeah. You was definitely on him.
Man,
That's
I was on him and I
wow.
really liked him. I liked the revenge narrative, but as we kind of went throughout the slate, I got talked off of him. Like everyone talking about
Wow.
the usage rates and it's going to be hard for him to really have a strong performance. I let people get into my head. I hate it when that happens, but it happens to everybody. Um, and then last but not least, we see Tillman crushing it. And for me, I was super high on JJJ.
Yeah,
I wasn't as high
I
on
was too.
Tillman, but Tillman made a ton of sense looking back, right? With Steven
Yeah,
Adams being out.
yeah. And then Brandon Clark's out too.
Yeah. So looking back, there weren't any, hey, this makes no sense kind of plays on the slate, but there definitely were some spots I wish I was a little bit higher on. So that was yesterday. Let's take the information, learn from it, grow from it, and now look towards today. Let's make some money. We had a really good day one, day two, not as great. OG, good to see you. Hello, man. Taking down a nice single entry on FanDuel. Congrats, turning $2 into 525. That's some freaking ROI.
Yes, sir.
Congrats, man. Love seeing Army members do well. Um, Speaking of, we do have a promo code going right now here at DFS Army. It's NBA 23 for a 23% discount. We're one of the cheaper DFS Army or we're one of the cheaper DFS content providers out there. We're adding another discount out there for you all. So you need a optimizer when it comes to NBA DFS. It's one of the key components. And then you also need access to a really strong, solid news provider. And we do that in the Discord, upper slides on top of it. And we also provide like solid pivots too. So you're definitely missing out if you're not a part of us. So definitely click the link in the description. Feel free to use the promo code NBA23 and join us, win some, make some money like OG did last night. Congrats, man. But like I said, get into this slate. only a 2-gamer. We can take our time, nice and slow. It's okay.
Mhm.
We have the 76ers against the Bucks. This spread is getting wider and wider as we continue to get through the day. If I had to make an educated guess as to why the spread is this wide, it would have to be because James Harden isn't playing, you know? Uh,
Yeah.
James Harden, Outcast, who won the mini on Tuesday, is like, these 2 gamers are my kind of slates. Yeah, no kidding, man. No kidding. Congrats on that, though, by the way. But it has to be because the Sixers are missing Harden and the Bucks are completely healthy, you know? So it's a little bit of
Yeah.
a misbalance when it comes to injuries and things of that sort. But how are you feeling about this game, the 76ers in particular?
Yeah, I think with the Sixers, one thing that stands out to me is Tyrese Maxey. I think he benefits the most because if going back to last year when Harden was not on the court, Maxey had a 30.5 usage rate and he averaged 1.19 fantasy points per minute. So I think Maxey's going to he's going to take it a step further, and he's
Yep.
somebody that I'm very interested in.
Yeah. Every time I think I have an original thought, someone reminds me that I don't. But yeah, I already have a like on Maxi in the domination station because this is a fantastic spot for him. It's a really good spot for Embiid as well. But we saw last year when Harden wasn't on the court, Maxi saw a 6% increase in usage rate and really just kind of led this team. So I'm right there with you on Maxi. What are your thoughts on Embiid facing this pretty solid defense of the Bucks?
I think you can go to Embiid here because I think he has something to prove.
Yeah.
One thing I love about Embiid is he's a competitor, right? Especially going against the Bucks. He doesn't like them and they don't like him. And I think
Yeah.
he can come out here and get you 32 points, 15 rebounds easily. So I
Yeah.
think he's a nice stud.
Yeah. Embiid averages around 60 fantasy points against this Bucks team. So the Bucks are known for their defense, but when it comes to Embiid, there's not really any major concerns there for me either. I think this is a good spot for him. So I like Embiid and Maxi on this team. Tobias Harris is a guy that I'm not ever excited to play. And even with um Harden out, I'm still not excited about playing Harris. But with that being said, I am completely aware how this kind of normally goes. Usually I'm saying, you know what? I don't like Harris on this slate. I think we can move past him. We get to 7:30, first quarter, Harris has 3 threes already down, and I'm sitting there pissed off. That's how that normally goes.
Yeah, and this
Do you
is
have any interest in Harris at all?
not really.
Yeah.
Whatever I get to, I get to because just I like the Lakers spots. I know we're talking about this game right now, but it's some Lakers who like Austin Reeves who's priced similar to him, right? And then you got I read you can pay down and go to Milton. So it's just like whatever I get of Tobias Harris, I'll be okay with.
Yeah. And Mr. Five is asking, are we not worried about Lillard's defense against Maxi? Honestly, I'm not. I mean, historically, the Bucks have had a solid defense against guards, but that was with Giroux. Um, and I would be way more concerned about that. Lillard has never really been a guard I've tried to avoid. Is that something you're worried about at all, TK?
No, because it's one of those things that Lillard, defensively, we know he's not he's not a good defensive player, but offensively, he should be able to still do what he wants to do, regardless who guards him.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. And then next up, I don't have any interest in Kelly. That's just not where I'm trying to go on this slate. Um, Matchup, it is also just Kelly. Like, if you've watched basketball enough, Kelly's just not that guy that we wanted him to be originally. But D'Anthony Melton is definitely viable on this slate with Harden being out. Is this a spot that you want to kind of be over the field on, or how are you treating Melton tonight?
He's one of those things that I'd rather be over the field with Milton
Yep.
because with Harden out, he also sees it increased usage rate and his
Yep.
fantasy points per minute goes up. So I'll be all over him today.
Yep. I don't think it's a shocker to anyone who's playing DFS tonight, but for me, it's Embiid, Maxi, Melton. on the Sixers, and then outside of that, I'm gonna let the domination station just kind of control my fate with these other pieces, just kind of mixing and matching them in. Do you think that's the right read? Anyone else you feel like we should talk about here?
I think that's the right read. If anybody else, maybe I would say maybe PJ Tucker. Like
Okay.
I rather have more of him than a guy like Patrick Beverly,
Yeah.
because with PJ Tucker, I know he can hit some threes, get some steals, some blocks, and I think he's the only one in that area on this team.
You know, he hasn't done it in a while, but Tucker's definitely he has the
Yeah,
ability to, piss everyone off and get us tilting pretty early. So I think it's a worthwhile mention. Um, but we'll see. I'll let the domination station just kind of really figure out if I'm going there or not. But I kind of have like the core people I want, and then from there, we'll let the system decide. And then when it comes to the Bucks, completely healthy, but a new look team. I think everyone's excited to see how Damian Lillard and Giannis look together. Is
yeah.
Giannis's usage rate and upside going to be impacted by having a guy like Damian Lillard on the team? I think the obvious answer is yes there. But on tonight's slate against the Sixers with the prices that we have, how do you feel about these guys tonight?
Oh, I love Giannis's price. He's 10-2 on DK, and he's what 12,000 on FanDuel.
Yep.
But on DraftKings, I would eat this up because he probably won't be as cheap as he is today than any other time. So I'm gonna be
Mhm.
all over him. And then with Lillard, it's just he can still have a big game, but he's not somebody. He's more of a secondary stud for me.
Yeah, I agree. I think Giannis is priced completely appropriately. I think 10,200 is exactly where he should be. He typically averages around 50 points against this Sixers team, and that's where he's priced or what he's priced for. So I think Giannis is a viable play on this slate. As of right now, I'm slightly over the field on him, but that's just kind of like the domination station and where it has me. Uh, and I'm not really trying to avoid or increase my exposure to him at this point. So I'm comfortable with it. Damian Lillard, similar story. Uh, I don't like picking on the Sixers team too often, but I am comfortable being slightly over the field, probably around like 35 to 40% on Lillard. That's where I'm at right now. But if I get less than that, he's not the kind of guy I'm trying to like force exposure to on this slate, you know?
Yeah.
And then Chris Middleton is a bit of a question mark here. I don't know if he was healthy, if I would still be excited to play him or not, but he only played one game in the preseason where he only played 12 minutes. There's already been reports out that are saying that he's not going to see a ton of time, or he's not going to see like his usual full run. So I think we're kind of expecting 25 to 30 minutes here, 30 minutes being on the high end. Uh, I'm not really interested in Middleton tonight. Are you?
Yeah, I agree. I'm not on him either. To me, he's more of a fade
Yeah.
because it's just I don't see why they would push him minutes wise, and I just don't see him having a big game when you got Damian Lillard and Giannis here, and it's the first game too against the Sixers team. I just rather fade that 12% and let the field eat that.
Yeah. I think that's a solid tournament strategy. It wouldn't shock me if his ownership continues to fall, especially if people are talking bad about him like we are. Hopefully they're not. But yeah, I think Middleton's a pretty easy fade here. Just with everything kind of going on with him. The more important piece here, Brooke Lopez. I think there's other center options I like a little bit more on this slate, especially in that next game. So I'm not super excited about him. But again, if he shows up, he shows up in my lines. I think some of the more interesting pieces here are guys like Bobby Portis, Malik Beasley, maybe even Pat Connaughton. They're just kind of like the flyers, not guys I'm gonna have like 20% or more of, but like 5 to 10% of these kind of guys, especially if this game ends up blowing out a little bit. These are the kind of guys who see a little bit more run and can help be a lineup winner for you. So that's kind of the extent of my interest to like Portis, Beasley, Connaughton. Maybe you can even add Crowder into the mix, but they're not like core components or guys I'm gonna have as like core plays. Do you have any interest in these guys?
Yeah, I think I have some interest in Beasley and
Mhm.
Connaughton from the
Yep.
standpoint of if if Chris Middleton do see limited minutes, I think those
Mhm.
two guys will pick up those minutes. And we all know Pat Connaughton. He's been on this team for a while now, and
Yep.
he's somebody. He's somebody who can put up 25, 30, 25, 30 fantasy points, and I think he can be in the winning lineup.
Yeah.
And then
Uh,
yeah, and then if you're playing 150 lineups, I mean, I would say don't be afraid to play Marjan be champ, because if Middleton do see limited minutes, can he get some run maybe?
yeah.
And maybe with him you can add more studs.
Yeah. I think that's kind of the way I want to think about this slate. Is like I have my key pieces, the studs I like from the Sixers and Bucks. I like a lot of the pieces in the Suns Lakers game, but I want to make sure I'm still sprinkling in some of these cheaper plays from the Bucks in particular, who might see a little bit of extra run, just kind of given some of the circumstances that their team's in right now. So I think that's a great call out. Next up, also it's a 2-game slate. On a 2-game
Right.
slate, you
Yep.
can pretty much play almost anyone you want to. It's just kind of like a last piece. You need to have a solid core, but if you have like a really shitty player as like a last lineup filler, we've seen that kind of line do well before in the past. So it's okay to get a little bit weird here. Uh, getting off my soapbox. The Suns. This is the team where we have the most injury news that has really shaken the entire slate, where everyone and their mom's going to be playing a crap ton of Suns tonight. The reason being, Devin Booker is looking doubtful. The guy who dominated the usage on Tuesday is now gone. Bradley Beal, doubtful. We haven't really seen him play. Not going to tonight. And then Damian Lee has been out as well. What are you doing with this team tonight?
Phoenix looks very appealing, especially Nurkic,
Mm-hmm.
because going against LA, they're gonna need bodies to go against Davis and LeBron. So I think Nurkic is good for another 28 to 32 minutes, and we know he's a fantasy point per minute monster at 6,100. I think he'll be a core for me. And with Durant, if the field is 72%, I probably will want to go lower than the field, because it's one of those things. Durant
Ooh.
not Durant, but Davis is priced similar to him, and
Uh-huh.
I know people are going to be more on Durant than Davis just because Booker's out. So I'd rather just pivot to Anthony Davis.
That is a ballsy call, man. That is ballsy. Because you're right. Everyone's playing Durant today because there's no other stud there. Um, Durant did look a little off on Tuesday. I'm not gonna lie. Like he looked a little just not himself. Um, I'm I, I keep going back and forth about this because as of right now, he's close to a lock for me. I'm around 99%. But I do think it's a solid tournament strategy, especially focusing on AD because he's one of the guys I like a lot on this slate. To take the under on Durant and just automatically give yourself better odds of not splitting tonight. Uh, and we can talk about some other potential plays too. Like I prefer not prefer, but I like Okogie a lot tonight too. Like I know you mentioned Nurkic. It looks like Okogie's
Yeah.
going to be the guy who's going to be under-owned on this team if he's going to stay around 30%. Okogie, his shot was falling on Tuesday, but his usage rate was right there as one of the top guys on this team. Without Booker, I think it could be a Durant and Okogie night, whereas Durant just kind of hits value and Okogie exceeds value. I think you can make some really nice lineups that way, fading Durant and playing AD. But that's a lot of strategy talk. Let's look at some of the questions that kind of came in. Thomas Dye said, how do you guys approach 20 max for 2-game slates? For me, I treat it very similarly to the way I do 150 maxing. I trust the domination station a lot. It's helped me win a lot of 100K wins. So I'm pretty loyal to this thing. But when it comes to 20 maxes, I have a similar approach, just probably a few less changes, which you'll see on the pre-lock show today. We can talk about it more. Is that kind of your approach? Do you 20 max at all ever?
I used to, but when I did, I would go heavy on somebody that I like and just try to find leverage in the field. So, like you said, if you said you had 99% Durant, if the field
Yeah.
is 72%, why not go 100?
Yeah.
And then same with maybe someone like Nurkic, if he's 45%, maybe go 70%. So just try to find leverage and just be different some way somehow than the field.
Yeah, I agree with that. R said Nurkic foul trouble. I'm playing low owned Eubanks. Yeah, I think that's a solid strategy. We saw
Mhm.
on Tuesday there wasn't the 50-50 split that I thought the Suns might try to utilize here. Nurkic was definitely the big. If you foresee Nurkic getting in foul trouble against AD, Eubanks definitely is a solid pivot. So I think that's a good way of going about it, especially
Yeah.
playing the AD bounce back game.
Mhm.
I plan on having some lines just like that, to be honest with you. Let's see. You can definitely play KD and AD tonight. You can do both.
Absolutely.
Good to see you, Corey. Let's see. When it comes to Gordon, what are you doing with him tonight?
I love Gordon because I think he should be second in usage to Durant, and we know Eric Gordon loves to shoot the ball. So I think he's a nice, solid value play at 4,400.
Mhm.
And it's one of those other things. If you think Eric Gordon's going to have a bad game, maybe you go Grayson Allen, who's what 35%
Yep.
owned right now. So maybe pivot to Grayson Allen
Yep.
because people are gonna think back to the first game and look at the box score and say, "Oh well, Grayson Allen, he didn't do much. Let me play Eric Gordon." Maybe
Yeah,
you go Grayson.
he
Yeah,
only played 23 minutes or so uh on Tuesday. I think it's an interesting pivot. As of right now, the projected lineup I'm seeing is Eric Gordon starting and
yeah,
Grayson Allen starting alongside Okogie, Durant, and Nurkic. My game theory was just kind of moving forward post Tuesday that it looked like between Gordon, Allen, they were just going to play the hot hand. Whoever was playing best, they were going to get the most exposure. But now with both in the starting lineup, projected lineup, uh, I think that definitely gives Allen a decent floor and still gives you that ceiling if his shot starts falling. So Allen's someone who's on my radar for sure. Ideally, his ownership stays pretty low, but he's definitely one of those guys. It's like Okogie and Allen are like those low owned pieces on the Suns that definitely have a crap ton of upside on this slate. Watanabe, I think, is viable as well, especially with Beal. Assuming Booker doesn't play, he's one of those guys who should see a little bit of a boost in minutes alongside Jordan Goodwin, who everyone's playing
yeah,
today for a good reason, right?
90%. Yeah,
Yeah. Like Goodwin saying, I would love to see him enter the starting lineup. That would be super nice, but it's probably asking for too much here. I still think Goodwin's in a fantastic spot.
yeah.
Uh, let's see. For the Bucks, Mr. Five, yeah, Malik Beasley should start tonight. Jay, what's up, man? Said members since 88. Okay. I'm late, but I'm here. Should we have a player pool for 2 game slates or adjust ownership with what the Jesus gives us? Jesus, for those of you who don't know, is the domination station. Um, should we have a player pool for 2 game slates or adjust ownership of what the DS gives us? For me, Jay, I always just kind of let the domination station do its thing first, just so I can kind of get an idea of what's actually going on. And then I'll start to make some changes. I know some people will add loves or likes. For me, I just tend to be a little bit more aggressive and I change the min percentages themselves to make sure I'm getting who I want. But we can definitely talk more about that on the pre-lock show as well. So I like these Suns tonight. I'm gonna be over the field as much as possible on the Suns just in general. The one guy I'm just having a really big question mark about now is Kevin Durant and what to do with him. At 8,900, I do feel like he's too cheap for this role. And ultimately that's why I'm just feeling like a fish playing him, but I think it makes a lot of sense. But were there any other reasons for why you were leaning towards the fade?
It's just one of those things that I just I don't know with Durant. It just feels like maybe maybe he's not gonna try to do everything tonight, right?
Yeah.
Maybe he wants to be more an assist player today. Eric Gordon, Nurkic, and stuff like that. And also, Lakers are favored to win. So what if Lakers come out here and they just beat them by 15, 10, 20 points? If that's the case, LeBron or Davis should have something to do with that. Then Durant.
Yeah. You're right though. Like it's the tournament strategy way of thinking about fading the expensive chalky guy. I hear you on it. Still gonna go back and forth on if I'm actually doing it, but I hear you. I hear you. For the Lakers, they're looking pretty healthy. Jarrett Vanderbilt is still out. Cam Reddish is listed as probable. Uh, how are you liking this team tonight? It's interesting seeing the Lakers play probably one of the better teams in the NBA against the Nuggets on Tuesday, now facing the Suns, who play almost no defense.
Right. Like Anthony Davis should have a huge game, and he should definitely be motivated to come out here and give it his all, knowing that the second half of last game he was terrible, and knowing that LeBron is gonna the coach said he's gonna play what is it 28 to 31 minutes this year.
Yep.
So Davis should have some get up about himself and say, you know what, I'm gonna come out here, dominate. Nobody could guard me inside the paint. He should really do what he needs to do.
Yeah. I was nervous on Tuesday because I faded Anthony Davis, and the first play of the game, they were getting him involved and trying to make sure he was getting going. Thankfully, he cooled off like he did in the second half. But I do think you're right. I already have a like on Anthony Davis. I want to make sure that I emphasize that he's one of those plays on this slate that I want to be over the field on. He didn't look great on Tuesday, but this is a softer matchup against the Suns team. And at 8,800, I think he's just a smash play. So I'll be over the field on him for sure. LeBron, that minutes situation scares the hell out of me. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
I don't foresee myself getting a lot of LeBron James tonight. Do you, though? Am I missing something here?
It's one of those things with LeBron. It's just he can, even though he's gonna be to a 30, maybe 20 to 30 minutes, he can still come out here and have a monster game. Can he put up more fantasy points than a Damian Lillard today? I think so. I mean, Dame Lillard is 9K, LeBron is 8,700. If the field is more on Lillard, maybe you go LeBron.
My question with LeBron is always, is the game on TV tonight? Because he cares a little bit more about that when it's actually on TV.
And it's gonna be on TNT.
And it is a TNT game tonight, so that does make him a little bit more viable for me. But to be honest, I don't foresee myself playing a lot of LeBron James tonight. I'll probably be around field weight exposure, but I don't plan on forcing the issue just because I like AD so much tonight. Reeves saw his price actually go down a bit. And I mean, Reeves and D'Lo, neither one of them had fantastic games. First, Mo, thank you for bringing it up. Yes, AD is a glass house. He gets injured every game. And as long as we talk about it before the game actually starts, it's okay. It's okay. As long as we talk about it, then it's probably fine. And we talked about Eubanks a little bit, 5. He's okay. He's an okay play, but not really anyone I'm going out of my way to get to. I think the narrative of like Nurkic getting into foul trouble is probably the best version of him. But he's in my mix, but not really a guy that I'm planning on forcing in lines. R said D'Lo likes to play at home. Okay, I hear you. I think you're right, though. I feel like he definitely has his better games at home, and he is at home today. But TK, what are your thoughts on Reeves and Russell?
Yeah, I love Austin Reeves because I mean he had a bad game, but I think he's still the third best player on the Lakers. And I'm definitely going to get a lot of him. And with D'Angelo Russell, he's somebody I will probably match the field on because he is 50s at 5,500, so he looks good. Yeah, so I think both of those guys look really good, especially versus this terrible Suns defensive team. So yeah,
I don't want to like Russell tonight, but I feel like I have to. You know, it's just one of those situations. It's just like everyone's telling me good things about D'Angelo Russell. He plays better at home, all this stuff. In my mind, D'Lo's just not a great player. He's just not, but he's 5,500 in a great matchup against the Suns. So I'm going to be around field weight, but kind of like some of these other guys, I'm not going to force the issue and try to make sure I'm way over the field on him. I'm just like you, similar, going to be around field weight. So if he sucks, I'm not surprised. I also have some lineups going. If he fails, I'm like, okay, yeah, I knew he sucked. Moving on, Christian Wood's just not seeing enough minutes for me. He's always looks good from an offensive standpoint, right? Like he always looks good. It's just he's not consistent with it, and he's not out there enough, and his defense is bad, right? Is that the right read?
Yeah, 100%. But I mean, it's still the first game, so
Yeah.
could Christian Wood see more minutes today? Possibly.
Yeah. If Christian Wood was 4K, like Rui or like Gabe Vincent, I would be so much more open to like taking a shot on him. Whereas 4,800 still feels a little high. Again, it's fine to have him in your GPP mix. I'm gonna let the domination station do its thing, but I'm not gonna force the issue with him. The only real question I have with this Lakers team is Prince. Are we okay going back to him? Because he crushed on Tuesday.
Yeah, he shot what 6 or 8. He was making those threes. He's one of those things. He's one of those players. Like I'll go back to him. I mean, if the field's gonna be 18%, I'll probably get a little bit over that. But I'm not gonna force anything with him.
I refuse to believe he's only going to be 18% owned. I just refuse. The way people think is just like 40. Everyone saw him have this huge game on Tuesday, and he's only still 4,300. There's no way. There's no way he's less than 30% owned. I refuse to believe that. And I feel like I would like to be around 30%. So if his ownership really is 18%, then easy leverage play for me. If not, then we were right, and we have around 30% of a player that should be around 30% owned tonight. What about like Gabe Vincent, who got into foul trouble? Rui, who's a little bit cheaper than he was on Tuesday. Any interest in these guys?
No, I'm not. I wasn't really getting to these guys.
Mhm.
Those like Gabe Vincent and Roy. It's whatever I get of those guys, I get, but they're not priorities because I
Yeah.
like going to I like Goodwin from the Phoenix Suns,
Yep.
so I just rather just go to him.
And that's one of the harder things for, I would say, a lot of DFS players to fully grasp is that you can still like a player, but then you have to kind of look at the slate as a whole and realize that, oh, but this guy is in such a better spot. I need to still make sure I'm prioritizing this guy. And I think you're right. Like comparing a Goodwin to Vincent is almost impossible because Goodwin is just so much better of a play. So, like you said, I'll have them in my mix, but I have the guys I'm prioritizing. So just kind of looking at the slate as a whole, for me, my kind of like pillars that I'm standing on and not shifting on are like Anthony Davis and Tyrese Maxey. Those are two guys I want to be over the field on. The rest, we're going to see what the domination station says. Going to continue to do research throughout the day. But those are like my two main guys. What are kind of like your main slate takeaways that you want to make sure people remember?
I'll say I'll go right. Yeah, Anthony Davis. I love Maxi. I also want to go to Nurkic. I want to make him
Yep.
a potential core play. And I'm gonna go to Giannis, right? If
Yeah.
he's gonna be 35 to 40%, I want more than that because he's still Giannis. He can still block shots still. And who knows, like maybe David Lillard is gonna be maybe more passive because he's like, this is not my team, this is your team. And I can see Giannis coming out here and making a statement.
Yeah, I want to see Giannis. Like, I can't wait to watch this game first and foremost. I think Giannis is fine. Damian Lillard's price tag scares me a little bit, but as of right now, I'm slightly just around field weight on both of them. But it's going to be an interesting spot. But yeah, I appreciate the time, TK. I look forward to doing this again with you tomorrow. For those of you who are again new or haven't joined DFS Army yet, we have the 23% off special going on this week. NBA 23 is the promo code. You get that 23% off. You'll have access to the domination station. You'll have access to the Discord. We'll be there to help you out. And we'll also be there for the pre-lock show where we'll do more of the deep dive around what we're actually doing on this slate. And I'll do that with B-Dubs later today. So appreciate everyone for joining me. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Y'all have a good one. Good luck out there. See you later.